Okay, so for our first round of questions, I'll give the floor to Ms. Gray for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for being here today. I'll start my questions with Dr. Vatz. I understand in Budget 2021 the government intended to develop the National Quantum Strategy. What is the date the strategy will be launched?
Thank you for the question. So I guess there's two parts to that answer. One is, when it comes to the investments relating to the strategy, those are already being announced. So the actual kind of programmatic elements that will drive the objectives of the strategy have already been announced to some extent. For example, I believe it was last week that the Natural Science and Engineering Research Council announced an investment of about 138 million out of the National Quantum Strategy for a range of programming under the Alliance program, and which is focused on research, larger scale research and collaboration amongst centers of research and industry, as well as funding for specific training programs under NSERC's CREATE program. The actual strategy document, which will inform the future rounds of investment under those programs, but also that could provide a bit of a longer term direction with respect to quantum in Canada, is currently under development. And so there's no definitive date for announcement of the strategy document as of yet.
Great, thank you. Do you know if the funding that was announced as you mentioned, was that allocated through Budget 2021, or was that new spending, or did the money come from somewhere else?
So the amount that I mentioned from NSERC was from the Budget 2021 investment, yes, as is some of the funding that's going towards the NRC Challenge programs that Dr. Tanguay mentioned.
Okay, and since we're still at the beginning stages of developing the strategies, as you had mentioned, how was this funding determined to fit into the strategy, since the strategy isn't developed yet? And where did this funding suggestion come from?
Well, there's a fairly long history to this point with respect to the development of the strategy. So prior to Budget 2021, there was an extended consultation amongst the research and industrial community in the quantum ecosystem to develop some recommendations on the types of investments that would be required to kind of take the quantum sector in Canada forward. So the programmatic elements that were kind of identified under Budget 2021 were really informed by that input that was provided by the Canadian quantum community. Now, the programs themselves have a certain degree of flexibility in terms of how the funding can be focused, and so the idea is, that investments are starting under those buckets, informed by that long consultation process. But that we would be able to refine that, as we move forward, as informed by the strategy document.
Okay, thank you. So would that have been from those roundtables that were held last year? Is that sort of where that flowed out of?
Well, there were so the government's consultations were the roundtables last year. There was actually a community-driven consultation process that was conducted even prior to the budget investment. So there was a lot of stakeholder input even before the budget, but then to better focus our thinking with respect to the programs and to the longer term plan, the government conducted a series of roundtables over last summer. Great,
thank you. Doctor, are you able to table with the committee the target metrics and the dates to meet those targets from the announcement of the strategy that was on March 15th, just recently, to the date the strategy will be launched? Are you able to table those metrics and what the dates are as you're developing your strategy?
Well, I mean, I can maybe I could just sort of. I'm not sure exactly what pieces. I mean, with respect to the programs, there are definitive kind of timelines, like in terms of what's been launched, when applications will be due, when decisions would be taken. The strategy as a policy document is something that I don't have a definitive sort of time for. But if it was with respect to the program pieces that have been announced, I think there'd be no problem in providing that to the committee.
Great. Thank you very much. Has the minister directed you or your department to work with your provincial counterparts in ensuring the quantum strategy also considers post-secondary training in this field?
Well, I would say generally we have been working very closely with provincial governments on the quantum strategy writ large. I mean, I know, and as I mentioned in my comments, in my remarks initially, there is a lot going on in a lot of different parts of the country. So when it comes to the governments, particularly in those provinces that have a large concentration of effort in quantum, so BC, Alberta, Ontario, and Quebec, we have been working very closely with those governments to make sure that what we're doing is complementing what they're doing. On the training side, that's been one component that has been discussed amongst many. So it has been part of those discussions.
Great. Thank you very much. One other quick question. Has the minister directed you or your department to ensure security and privacy are a pillar of the future national quantum strategy?
So yes, this is coming. So in the consultations we had last summer, there was a framing document that talked about the importance of security, and in fact, our roundtables one of the roundtables was focused on security issues. And with respect to the programs that are rolling out, there are actually security provisions embedded within those programs, specifically the Alliance program that I mentioned in NSERC. And the NRC also has, security due diligence sort of built into its program suite. So both in terms of policy and in terms of programmatic measures, there are, security is clearly an important issue in this space. And so it is kind of integrated into the approach.
Thank you, MP Gray. Thank you, Mr.